Hi, my name is Yvonne, and I appreciate the opportunity to get together with you today. I don't know if I have something or not that's going to help you, but I'm going to go through the various areas that we work in, such as increasing cash flow, decreasing debt, reducing taxes. We also specialize in life insurance and annuities and how they can possibly shave years off of your potential retirement date. After that, if there's an interest on your part, I'll get some information together and we'll get back together at another date and time and go through some specifics. But as for today, there's nothing to buy, so just sit back, relax, and let's get started. Now, Federal Financial Group is a national company representing several insurance companies and financial institutions with billions of dollars of assets, some of which have been in business for over 100 years. What we do is we teach people about money, how it works, and how to make it work better for you. Our goal is one thing: to help people become financially independent. What that means is that the interest you're earning on the money you have put away replaces what you normally get from a job or from a salary. That way, you don't have to work anymore. You can if you choose to, but you don't have to. That's financial independence. Now, wouldn't you like to know how to get there the soonest? That's exactly where I'm headed. Now, let's look at some of the issues and challenges that we face today. Specifically, let's look at the last 10 years. Incomes have risen, yes, but inflation continues to go higher and higher. For most people, there's no way that incomes have kept up with things like housing and other expenses. Therefore, people tend to get into debt, poor saving habits ensue, lack of security steps in. But here's my point. Out of 100 people turning 65 today, only 4 are financially secure. Only 4. 96 are not. So what's their situation? Well, some of them are relying on charity. I'm sure you've seen this. Some of them are relying on family. I'm sure you've seen friends that are having to take in older relatives. But the majority of them are in the third category. They're still working. I mean, we've seen them, the greeters at Walmart. You know, it was so sad. I walked into one of my favorite restaurants the other day. I eat at this restaurant pretty frequently, and I was just sitting having lunch as usual, and I noticed this older woman who works there, mopping tables or wiping countertops. And this particular day, as I was eating, I look over and I noticed that she was on the ground. I got up because I wasn't sure if something had happened to her, but when I saw what she was doing, I noticed she was scrubbing something off of the floor. I mean, can you imagine? Here's a woman who's old enough to be my grandmother. I mean, she's not just old, she's probably in her 70s or 80s, if not, bent over in the most uncomfortable position, scrubbing somebody else's mess off of the floor. I mean, that's not her hobby. She's there because she's out of money. See, that's the problem. I mean, when she was my age, or your age, you probably didn't think that she'd have to be doing that. And that's what's really creating problems now, is that people are living longer, and this is becoming increasingly more prevalent. So you can see, that's what we're facing. That's the challenge that we're trying to combat by planning ahead and preparing ahead. Now, these are the solutions. We work in 7 key areas to help build your financial future. What we do is we weave these steps together to help people increase their cash flow, decrease their debt, reduce their taxes, and retire as soon as possible if desired. The goal here is to achieve financial independence the quickest. Now, I'm going to rip through these real quick. Stop me if you have any questions, but keep in mind any areas that you might have a specific need or an interest, and we can come back to it later on. Now, the first step is to inspect what you expect. Now, in order to have money later on for your future dreams and goals, you need to understand exactly where you're spending your money right now. Part of understanding how money works and how to make it work better for you is to know exactly what you're doing with your money. So we're going to introduce you to a tool that's going to allow you to track your earnings and your expenditures so that you can literally inspect what you expect. The goal here is to free up extra money that you didn't even know you had. This money can be used towards paying off debts. It can even be used towards shaving years off of your retirement date. So that's step 1. Moving right along to step 2. Step 2 is about increasing your cash flow. Now, John, how would you define cash flow? Excellent definition. Let's also define cash flow as this. Cash flow is the amount of money left over after all the bills and expenses go out and all the money comes in. So, What we do is we work with companies that help to improve your cash flow by reducing the cost of servicing your debts. Let me ask you another question. At the end of the year, do you usually get a tax refund or do you owe money in taxes? Very interesting that you said that. You know, we just met with a client a few weeks ago that said he usually got about a $2,000 to $3,000 refund check back every year. So we said, you're telling me you're paying the government to hold on to your money for a little bit over a year and allowing them to give it back to you with zero interest. He said, yeah, that doesn't make sense. And you know what? It doesn't. There are ways to take that money as it's being earned, put it back into your wallet, and allow it to earn more money for you and not for the government. So that's step 2. Now, in step 3, we help people to eliminate their debt. We actually use 2 strategies to do that. The first one is our debt eliminator. Now, here's an actual client. They have a mortgage, an auto loan, store credit, and a credit card. Now, if they had continued their current payments according to this current plan, they would have been out of debt in 26.8 years. But following the debt eliminator strategy, they're out of debt in 13.1 years. They have the same amount of debt, same monthly payments, there's no additional refinancing involved, but they're out of debt in 13.1 years, including their mortgage. Now get this, if they continue to make those payments, but now make those payments to themselves, not only will they be out of debt in 26.8 years, but they'll have potentially $500,000 in savings. That's incredible. Now, John, if I told you that I had a way to get you out of debt potentially much sooner than you would have otherwise been able to with your same current monthly payments, is that something you'd be interested in? Great. Well, this is an area that we work in. Yes, but this is also to let you know, this is a hypothetical debt structure of about 8%, but you can understand the tremendous impact that using this type of strategy can make. Now, another strategy that we use involves your mortgage. Do you currently have a mortgage? Well, looking at Plan B, this is the hypothetical debt structure of another family. They have a first mortgage, a second mortgage, a car loan, credit cards, some store credit, all of it totaling to about $206,000. Now, how long do you think it's going to take this family to become debt-free? Well, what they chose to do was a debt consolidation loan. Now, this allowed them to free up some additional cash to build up that emergency fund and get out of debt much sooner. It reduced their monthly payments down to $1,192. The previous payment was $1,937, creating a monthly savings of $745 and an annual savings of almost $9,000. Now, the question for them was, do we do a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage? Well, that gets into the issue of the time value of money. Let's look at both examples and how they differ. Well, using a 15-year mortgage, their monthly payments would be $1,716. Now, if they continue to make those payments after they've paid off their debt for another 15 years, they would have $593,000 in savings approximately, which is great, but let's look at what happens if they choose to do a 30-year mortgage. Now, it's going to create a difference of $524 because it's going to bring their new monthly payment down to $1,092. But with this $524 that they're putting away for 30 years, they could have potentially $780,000 in savings. That's a $187,000 difference just between the two. Absolutely incredible. So this is how we help people manage their debt so that their debt doesn't manage them. Now, step 4 is also a biggie. Step 4 is about creating an emergency fund. What we found is that most people don't have one. So when an emergency strikes, out comes the plastic. That $1,800 transmission, 3 to 4 years down the road, becomes a $3,000 to $4,000 transmission. You know what I mean, right? You see, that's what's hurting people. Now, a sound emergency fund has some essential components. First of all, it's got to be liquid. It's got to be in a place that's safe. It's got to have a better rate of return than a checking account, and it's got to be separate and systematic. Now, John, have you ever tried to create an emergency fund within a checking account? Right? It doesn't work. It's going to get spent. But if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. That's why we encourage people to create a separate account, such as a money market account, where they can have the money drafted every month, say $50 from their checking account to their money market account on the same day of every month. That way it's out of sight, it's out of mind, it's growing at a good rate of return, and then when stuff happens, you've got the money. It's simple, it's powerful, and it works. It helps to keep your credit balance very low, and it also helps to prevent you from dipping into that retirement savings and facing those awful penalties. So simple, powerful, and effective stuff right here. Now, moving right on to step 5. Now, step 5 is about using life insurance to provide proper protection against the loss of life, which can lead to the loss of income. You know, it's devastating. Mom and dad, they have 3 kids, and then suddenly something happens and dad is gone. It's devastating, because when dad's gone, so is his income. Who's going to pay the light bill, the house bill, for food? You see, that's what's devastating. Have you seen this before? Now, part of having a sound financial plan is having proper life insurance in place to replace lost income. Now, we do things a little bit differently here. We look at a person's financial needs, and then we bring back options that are going to allow them to save money while decreasing their debt and setting them up with the right amount of life insurance. That's step 5. Not the greatest stuff to talk about, but very, very essential, very, very important that people think about this. But now, step 6. Now, this is the biggest step. This is the step that everybody loves, and if you listen to me, it will change the quality of your life. Step 6 is all about building long-term income and long-term savings. Now, 2 elements come into play here. 2 battles that you have to win in order to win the money game. Because if you don't, John, I can be strong with you, the chances of you becoming financially independent probably won't happen. Now, those 2 battles are 1, the inflation battle, you'll see why in a minute, and 2, the tax battle, because it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Taxes can hurt you if you're not careful. First of all, let's talk about inflation. Have you heard of the rule of 72? Okay, well, great, it's really interesting. Let me explain. The rule of 72 says whatever interest rate you have, say 4%, divide that into 72, and that's going to tell you how many years it's going to take for your money to double. So, 72 into hypothetical interest rate of 4% equals 18. So every 18 years, your money doubles. Now, let's say we have $100 in an account that earns 4%. So, after 18 years, $100 at 4% in 18 years, you have $200. Pretty great, huh? And then what happens after another 18 years? Exactly, $400. 18 years, $400. But John, now here's the problem. 36 years from now, is $400 going to buy what $100 buys now? Probably not. Inflation has averaged 3% since 1927. So, that's the problem, and that's the issue with inflation. Let me ask you another question. If people are saving, where are they saving? Right, banks, credit unions, fixed accounts, where they're probably not even getting 4%. And their money is growing, but inflation is growing much faster. They're losing purchasing power, and they may never retire. Big, huge problem. The only solution is to get a potentially higher interest rate, say 6 to 12%. Let's look at an example and see what happens. All right. Let's say you're 29 years old and you have $10,000 in a bank account that earns 4%. That means after 36 years, your money will have doubled to $40,000. So picture it. You're 65, you're ready to retire, you paid off your house, your kids have all moved out, you're so excited. I mean, this is the time of your life you've been waiting for. Then you have $40,000 to your name. How long do you think that's going to last? And at the rate you spend, probably half the time. But no, really, probably a year, maybe a little longer if you're really frugal, and then you're out of money and you're a greeter at Walmart. I mean, you've seen this, right? The only thing we could have done differently is to get a potentially better interest rate. Do you think having an interest rate of, say, 6 to 12% could have made you more financially independent? The answer is absolutely. Let's look at what happens. At 6%, your money doubles every 12 years. At 8%, your money doubles every 9 years. And at 6%, your money doubles, at 12%, excuse me, your money doubles every 6 years. So by the time you're 65, you have $640,000. Oh my goodness, that is absolutely incredible. I mean, look at it. The only difference between this guy and this guy is the interest rate. Not more time, not more money. Same age, same amount of time, only the interest rate. Yet it costs this guy right here $600,000. I mean, John, don't you think this is an important principle to learn? This could literally change the quality of your life just by understanding this. And you know, it's not about having $10,000 because a lot of us don't have it. It's about saving a little bit of money on a monthly basis at a decent interest rate. And I'm telling you, John, if you can save for you, there may come a day when you're no longer out earning your money, but your money is out earning you. Now that brings us to the million-dollar question. Where can I get a decent rate of return while still have the protection principle where I'm guaranteed not to lose any money? That's exactly where I'm headed. Well, when saving, there's actually 3 different strategies. So we're going to briefly go through each one. I'm just going to give you a quick little synopsis, and then you can keep in mind what makes the most sense for you for when we get back together. The first rate is the fixed rate. Is a fixed strategy. And in this strategy, you're given a fixed interest rate, say 1 to 2%. It's guaranteed, but it's dangerous because of inflation. So it's a low rate. The second strategy is the complete opposite end of that, the variables, stock market. So we're going to call that variable strategy. And in this, it's great because there's a potential for high returns, but you can also lose all your money. And that's been happening a lot lately because it's been kind of dicey. The stock market's been a kind of unpredictable place. But that's another strategy that people can use to save. Now the third strategy is the index strategy. In the index strategy, all the principal you have saved and all the interest you've earned is protected. So you're guaranteed not to lose any money. All interest earned is linked directly to the S&P 500 up to a cap. But then all your principal you save is also protected so that you're guaranteed not to lose any money. All interest earned is linked directly to the performance of the S&P 500, which over the last 25 years has averaged 10%. Now, John, out of those 3 strategies, looking at the fixed strategy, the variable strategy, and the index strategy, which one do you think makes the most sense to you? The index strategy? Well, it's interesting that you say that. That's actually a very popular strategy. Let's talk about it for a second. Have you heard of the S&P 500 stock index? Well, great, no problem. The S&P 500 stock index is the 500 most widely held companies in the U.S. It represents over 100 industry groups, including healthcare, technologies, utilities, things like that. But get this, the S&P 500 represents nearly 70% of the U.S. economy. But even better, the S&P 500 has averaged 10% a year for the past 25 years. So you can imagine if you'd invested in the S&P 500 25 years ago, you'd be pretty happy, right? Well, when we get back together, I'm going to go over specific costs, products, floors, caps, and things. But for today, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the index strategy and how interest crediting works. Now, in the index strategy, all interest earned is linked directly to the performance of the S&P 500 up to a cap, say 12%, but without any of the downside risk associated with putting your money directly into the stock market. So you can participate in the gains of the stock market, but you're not facing any of the downside market loss or any downside market risk. Now let's look at an example. Let's say that a few years back, you had put $10,000 into the index strategy, and the S&P 500 did 10% its first year. That means in your first year, your money grows to $11,000. That's great. Let's say the second year, the S&P 500 also does another 10%. So your money grows again to $12,100. But then the third year, the stock, the S&P 500 loses 20%. Is that possible? Yes, in fact, it's happened. But get this, rather than your account declining in value all the way to $9,600, you remain locked at $12,100. You don't lose any money. So you can see why the index strategy is quickly becoming one of the most popular. Now, you see, it's about getting that. In order to win this battle, you want to get that potentially higher growth rate, but you also want to not just get the potentially higher growth rate, it's also important to consider taxes, because it's not enough just to have this and then ignore the tax battle. Taxes can hurt you if you're not careful. Now I'm going to show you an example that's literally going to blow your mind as to how important it is to win both the rate of return battle and the tax battle. Now, 30 years ago, there was a guy who was 30 years of age, and he wanted to have $1 million by the time he turned 60. Now, he didn't really understand any of this stuff, so he just walks into the bank and he says, "Banker, what do I have to save every month for the next 30 years to have $1 million?" Well, the banker did the calculation and figured it out back when CD rates were about 5% and said, "You need to save $1,639 every month for the next 30 years to have your million." Well, the guy got frustrated, went home, never saved a penny. Now he's a greeter at Walmart. But what if we could have shown him how to win both battles, both the rate of return battle and the tax battle? Let's win one at a time. Wow, look how it drops that number down, almost $900. Looking at one battle at a time, the rate of return battle, what if we could have got him a better interest rate, say 10%? A $900 payment, that's $700 less than this guy. I mean, John, how many people do you think can save $900 a month? Probably not very many, right? But that's still $700 less than this guy. That's pretty significant. Now, what if we could have also shown him how to grow his money somewhere where it couldn't be taxed as it grows? Using tax deferral, it drops his monthly savings amount to $438. Now, John, how many people do you know can save $438 a month? Right? For most people, that's not a big deal. I mean, you could probably even save that. You're blowing that right now, right? You see, for most people, that's not a lot of money. And you know, it's not so much about saving a ton. It's about saving a little bit of money on a monthly basis at a decent interest rate with reduced taxes and avoiding any loss of principal. You see, when we're done with step 6, a person will know exactly when and how they will be totally financially independent. It's absolutely incredible. And if we do this right, it can literally shave years off of your potential retirement date. Now, I want to ask you another question. John, if you could be totally financially independent right now, today, in this moment, what would you be doing? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What would you and your wife be doing? That's incredible. You see, that's what it's about. It's about having options. And when you're financially independent, you have those options. You can do what you want, when you want, how you want. You know, it was great, one of our clients that we met with in the implementation phase, this is the second appointment. She got so excited. She got up in the middle of the appointment. She said, "I could go to every single one of my neighbors' houses, door to door, asking them when they would be financially independent, and nobody would know. But I know." You know, that moment, it was like her and her husband became one. It was incredible because they knew what their dreams were and they knew when it was going to happen. So that's step 6. Pretty neat, huh? All right. Now, the last step is step 7, estate planning. Now, oftentimes, using something like a trust can help leave a legacy rather than headaches and tax burdens for your survivor. It can help you to avoid things like probate and face some other penalties. It's also important to think about things such as a living will and power of attorney. Do you remember the Terry Schiavo case a while back? It was about the woman who was incapacitated and literally had the whole world arguing about what would happen to her. Imagine how differently things would have been had she just had a living will. So it's really important to consider these things. Are you at all concerned about who's going to make legal, medical, or financial decisions for you if you're unable to? Have you thought about who's going to gain your assets when you pass away? Are you currently working with an attorney on estate planning issues? Well, we do recommend that you engage an attorney that specializes in estate planning issues. You can also get together with a company that plans simple estate planning documentation. We can help link you up with some of those companies if you're interested. That's step 7. All right, well, that's all the steps. Pretty incredible, huh? Wow, now just kind of going back to the beginning and thinking about taking all this in. John, out of all 7 steps, between increasing cash flow, eliminating debt, developing an emergency fund, protecting what you have, building that long-term financial independence, if you could pick 2 steps in which you have the greatest need or priority, what 2 steps would those be? Excellent. Those are great choices. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what we do. We do what's called a financial needs analysis to make sure that the products that we offer are going to be suitable for you. So what we're going to do is in a few seconds, I'm going to collect some information about what your needs and hopes and goals are. And then I'm going to take that information back with me to the office where I'm going to input it into a very sophisticated software program, and I'm going to design a plan of attack specifically geared towards your needs with one goal in mind, to help you become financially independent the soonest. Now, you're probably wondering how much all this costs. And I've got to admit, you're going to have to pay up. So when I come back, this is what I'm expecting. A hot batch of chocolate chip cookies fresh out of the oven baked by you. Just kidding. You were too serious. But no, this is really what we want when we come back. This is actually how we get paid. We earn a commission or a finder's fee based on the organizations that you choose to link up with to help meet your needs and your goals. So actually, you're not going to be billed for any services rendered at all. It's a win-win. Now, but in order for me to bring back the most accurate information to you, it's only as accurate as what you give me. So I'm going to really need you to work with me here because we're talking about your financial future. The first few questions that I'm going to ask you are yes, no questions. I can have maybe. Very important. Work with me here. This is great. We're talking about your financial future, building it for you. You're going to love the results. All right, the first question is, are you planning on making any major purchases in the next few years? Okay. Planning on buying a new home? Planning on paying off any credit cards? What about, are you interested in building an emergency fund? All right, great, John. This is excellent. I'm so excited. You got a good amount of money here for us to work with. It's going to be great. When we get back together, you're going to have a crystal clear picture of exactly when you can be totally financially independent. It's going to be absolutely incredible. You can be living your hopes and your dreams. You're going to have a real clear idea of when that's going to happen for you. But I'm going to need you to listen to me because I'm going to be serious about this because I know you're serious. I know you want this, so I'm going to work really hard on this. Now, it's important that we build on what we established here today. So let's plan to get back together in the next 24 to 48 hours so that we can really build on this momentum. Because if we have to go clear out into next week, I'm going to have to go over some of these things again, and we don't want to have to do that. We want to just keep working from where we're at. So I have some time tomorrow at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. What time works best for you? 10 a.m.? Sounds great. Have you on my schedule. Can't wait to meet with you. You're going to absolutely love it. It's absolutely incredible what we're going to show you. I'm so excited to work with you. I'm so excited to help you achieve your goals and your dreams. And just before I leave, I just have 2 more questions for you. Now, John, if I come back and I bring you a plan that you love in every single way, it meets all of your needs and you feel totally comfortable with it, is there any reason why we wouldn't be able to do business? Great. One more question. Now, after we've done business, is there any reason why you wouldn't feel comfortable recommending me to 3 or 4 friends that you'd also like to help in the same way that I was able to help you? Great. That sounds excellent. Well, I will see you tomorrow. I can't wait to work with you. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for your time.